Well, good evening and welcome, everyone. I'm Jeff Arnett. I'm the superintendent of Eanes ISD, and it's so good to welcome all of you for this very important evening. I also want to acknowledge a few other guests that we have in our audience tonight, just to show you how important we view tonight's presentation. We have three of our trustees who are joining us this evening. John Havenstreit, Heather Sheffield, and Laura Clark are with us from our board, and we're also privileged to be joined this evening by State Representative Donna Howard. We thank all of you for joining us tonight as well. We believe this is going to be a very impactful evening for our school district and for our community. In just a moment, I'm going to introduce to you Deputy Anthony Hippolito from the Hays County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Hippolito and his team have been very generous with their time to provide tonight's presentation, and we think that you're going to find all the information that they have to share with us this evening both relevant and very emotional. By the way, a version of this presentation is also going to be shared with all of our students at our middle schools and our high school in the coming week. And we're joined this evening as well by the principals of our two middle schools and our high school too. I should also add that following tonight's presentation, there will be an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you might have for Deputy Hippolito and his team of presenters to engage with the audience. So if you'll please save your questions until the end. But at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce to you, and would you please help me in welcoming Deputy Anthony Hippolito from the Hays County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you very much, Superintendent, and I appreciate you guys having me. I want to thank Claudia McWhorter for reaching out after seeing some posts on Facebook and inviting me out to speak to you guys. I really appreciate you guys taking the time on a Thursday evening to come out and spend an hour or two with us. Kind of how it's going to work is I'll do a little presentation, probably about 30 minutes or so, and then I'll bring up a couple of families that have been directly impacted by this dangerous drug. And they'll come up and speak, tell their stories, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. I have Dr. Jennifer Duke here. She's graciously donated some of her time to come and help us answer some of those questions that you might have. So kind of a little background about me. I've been in law enforcement for about 24 years. 23 of that I spent right here in Austin. I worked at Austin Police Department, retired in July of 21. I wasn't done with law enforcement. I've lived in Hays County pretty much my entire life, so I wanted to serve in the community that I grew up in. Started out in September of 21, I got hired over at the Hays County Sheriff's Office, did some patrol work, and now I'm assigned to the Community Outreach Division. So how are we here and why are we here? So you guys probably are aware, in about end of July and through August, we had 4 Hays CISD students that were poisoned and passed away from fentanyl. Those deaths occurred throughout the county, so Hays County Sheriff's Office didn't work all of those. San Marcos PD worked a couple, Kyle PD also worked. But as soon as Sheriff Cutler, our sheriff, started seeing these deaths occur in an abnormal way, right? So he called myself and my partner, Deputy Mark Andrews, who's here, and he called us to the office and says, hey, this is not okay. I want you guys to get out and talk to as many people as possible about fentanyl. So since about the end of August to now, we have talked to a lot of the high schools and middle schools in Hays County. We've talked to Rotary clubs, Lions clubs. We've talked to football teams, volleyball teams, basketball teams. We're trying to get in front of as many people as we possibly can. We obviously are prioritizing Hays County, but we have gone to Round Rock, a middle school in Round Rock. We've been to a middle school in Austin. We're not going to tell anybody no. Fentanyl's just not in Hays County. It's a nationwide epidemic. There's not a portion of Hays County where I live and work that hasn't been touched by fentanyl. And I can promise you that there's not a portion of Travis County that hasn't been touched by fentanyl. It knows no demographic. Doesn't care if you're white, blue, brown, purple. Doesn't care if you're rich or poor, if you have money, if you don't. It knows no demographic. It's affected every portion, every person. It's a leading cause, and I'll get to the numbers here in a little bit, but it was a leading cause of death in 2021 between the ages of 18 and 45. So it's not going anywhere. The numbers are continuing to rise. We've seen a very high number of deaths and poisonings in Hays County this year. So we basically formed a task force with the DEA, the National Guard, and other law enforcement agencies in Hays County over the last several months. And it's a two-pronged approach, right? So there's the enforcement part where they're going after the drug dealers. And then there's the education part where myself, Deputy Andrews, some other folks that are doing these presentations throughout Central Texas. So that's why I'm here today. Eanes ISD has reached out, and we're not going to tell them no, right? So we're here, and we're going to give you as much information as we possibly can, and then we'll open up for questions here at the end. So as I said, Hays ISD has been pretty hit hard, very, very hard. As a matter of fact, just 2 days ago, Hays ISD lost another 14-year-old juvenile to a fentanyl overdose, or fentanyl poisoning. So it's continuing to happen. So Hays ISD basically took the lead on this as well, and they put out, I think they're up to 4 or 5 episodes that they put out on their YouTube channel. And I start out my presentations with this YouTube video that kind of, you just meet one of the families that have been directly involved or directly impacted by fentanyl.
This is Kevin McConville. He was 17 years old. And he was my baby boy, my pride and joy.
Born May 9th, 2005. Amazing kid. Full of life and loved the outdoors. Very creative. Was planning a career in the military and possibly becoming a welder.
He would have been a senior this year.
He has a little sister that he loves very much.
The night of August 2nd, he asked if there was any more pizza, and I told him no, unfortunately, and I could make him his tuna. And he said no. Said, I'm just gonna go upstairs and go to sleep. And I said, I love you. He said, I love you too. The following day, I found him in his bed, asleep. What appeared to be asleep. But he was gone. And I couldn't bring him back.
Later, we found out that after their investigation, they said that there was a pill found next to Kevin in an Altoids tin can with a pill in a bag. It was a light blue colored pill with the M30 logo stamped into it, and they said they're believed to be fentanyl. These are the counterfeit pills that are going around.
I contacted one of his friends shortly after he had passed away to let him know that Kevin was gone. He was very heartbroken, and he had told us that Kevin confided in him that he was taking Percocet and Xanax to help him sleep. I think one of his, I don't want to call him a friend, I can't call him a friend, was doing it as well. And that friend originally gave him the pills because he probably confided in that person. And Kevin probably took them before and nothing happened. And so he continued to take them. I can't tell you how many times because I don't know. But it doesn't matter how many times you could take it. It could be your first time, it could be your last time. And no parent wants to see their child in that position, in that he looked like he was asleep.
Pretty impactful video. Eanes ISD has done a wonderful job producing these videos, and they're still doing them. And there'll be another video that I'll show you guys here in a few minutes that they've put out here just a couple of weeks ago. As we're getting going here, I'll just talk about a few facts about fentanyl. So you guys are well aware, fentanyl is a pain reliever, right? Fentanyl has been around since about 1960 in the medical field. Doctors have prescribed it for cancer patients or a major surgery. So it's been around for a long time, and it's been abused for a long time. Fentanyl, 50 to 100 times stronger than heroin and morphine. You guys been on morphine drip. If you're at the hospital, you know how loopy that can make you feel. Just imagine something that's 100 times stronger than that. That's what fentanyl is. So what we're seeing here throughout the country, not just here in Hays County and Travis County, is this illicit fentanyl. Illicit fentanyl is being manufactured basically all over the world, but the Mexican cartel has gotten into the fentanyl game here in the last couple of years. They can make a lot of it for not as much money, and they can make just as much money. But they can also do it while still making their cocaine, their methamphetamines, their marijuana. What they're doing is they're making this fentanyl. They're getting the precursor chemicals sent over from China and some other places overseas, and they get it to Mexico, and then they make the pure fentanyl. And as they're making this pure fentanyl, they're also making the other drugs, and they start putting the fentanyl inside of the kilos of methamphetamines, cocaine, heroin, and they're shipping it across the border. They've also gotten into the pill game. There's no official oversight. They're not made in a lab. They're not made in a pharmacy. They're making the fentanyl, and they're pressing these pills by the millions as fast as they can and smuggle them across the border. They also smuggle pure fentanyl across the border, and then they press the pills here. So the cartel has back when I was at APD, I was in the criminal interdiction unit, and we would get a lot of fentanyl seizures, but it was fentanyl seizures that were ordered on the dark web and sent over from China, the pills. Cartel got a hold of it and said, no, we're going to start. We basically took over. So you guys are aware of, if you've seen the Netflix show Narcos, Chapo Guzman. It's his two brothers that are basically leading the way with this fentanyl production. It's the Gulf cartel, and there's CJ&G is the other cartel. But they've gotten into the fentanyl game, and they're making this stuff along with the other legal street narcotics, and they're putting the fentanyl inside this stuff. 2 milligrams, not very much, can kill a person my size. That's how powerful this stuff is. So when I start talking about the pills that are all over this community, Hays County, Travis County, in every school, I've got 2 high school kids, right? My kids go to Dripping Springs High School, so this directly affects me, right? So this scares me to death. I talk to them about it, and I don't hide anything. I'm pretty blunt with them. But 4 out of every 10 pills that are made, all the illicit counterfeit pills, about 40% of those have enough fentanyl in them to kill somebody. So if you decide to buy a pill off the streets, it's not going to be, so if you're looking for a Xanax and you're not getting it from a doctor, you're getting it off the street, it's probably not going to be a Xanax. It looks just like a Xanax, but it's a counterfeit pill made to look like Xanax, but it has fentanyl in it. And that's what that's what you're getting off the street. So I don't know where some of that went away, but these are some of the numbers, and I have memorized. I've done this so much, but in 2021, there was about 93,000 people who died from a synthetic opioid poisoning, right? So I think it was about 75,000 are those directly related to fentanyl, right? So what I do is When I take this presentation to high schools and middle schools, the kids can't wrap their mind around 93,000 people. So I show this next slide, and I tell them that's how many people died last year from a fentanyl poisoning in FY21. And all the kids, they're like they can't grasp it. So when they see this, they're in shock. Here's some numbers for Hays County. It's kind of broken down by age, but we've had 37. This is just, and I need to explain this, this is just Hays County Sheriff's Office jurisdiction. So within Hays County itself, we have the city of Buda, who has a police department. We have the city of Kyle, who has a police department. And we have the city of San Marcos, who also has a police department. And we respond to the areas that they don't cover. So these are the calls that the Hays County Sheriff's Office took in 2022. We've had 37 fentanyl poisonings, and 6 of those were deaths. 5 of those were adults, and we had 1 juvenile. When I mentioned 1 juvenile, but we had 3 others that passed away as well. I mentioned the 4 at the beginning of the presentation. The other jurisdictions are working those cases along with the federal government. So Kyle PD has a couple, and also San Marcos PD. So we have 37 total in Hays County in 2022. And if you look at the far right, you see that map. All the triangles are where we've had fentanyl overdoses, and it's pretty much from Buda, Kyle, San Marcos, Ulen, Dripping Springs. We've had 2 or 3 out in Dripping Springs, Wimberley. So it's touched every portion of Hays County. I don't have a map of Travis County, but I can promise you, just from my experience at the Austin Police Department, it's all over Travis County as well. These are some Kyle PD numbers. For 2022, they had 8 adults, 1 juvenile. They had a total of 17 in 2022. Narcan was administered by 9 juveniles and 4 adults in 2022. So combine those numbers with our numbers, and that's not even counting Buda PD and San Marcos PD. So those numbers are continuing to go up. Here's some Travis County numbers. The first half of 2022 was very, very busy for Travis County first responders. So from January to June of this year, of 2022, they had 118 fentanyl-related deaths. That's just deaths. That's not counting poisonings where they were able to get there and save whoever was involved. So you can probably multiply that number by 10, and that's how many fentanyl poisonings we've had in Travis County in 2022. Just a little background. This video, in September, we had 2 folks, and you'll watch the video here, but this occurred behind one of our elementary schools in the middle of the night out in Hays County. This is a surveillance video that is on the school. that young man is alive and doing well. The first responders got there and were able to administer Narcan, do CPR. I think that particular case, the first responders had to administer 6 doses of Narcan and do CPR for 30 to 40 minutes. They did a really good job, brought him back to life. As you saw in the video, it says he woke up and had no idea what even happened. He was fine. So they took him to the hospital, and I think he got released the next day. So this is what we're seeing pretty much on a weekly basis out at Hays County and Travis County as well. Not only are we seeing it in the community, but we've seen overdoses and poisonings happen on our campuses out in Hays County. I want to say 2 months ago, about 9 o'clock in the morning, a young man was sitting in class at Hays High School and pretty much died at his desk. The SROs who carry Narcan got there with the school nurse, administered 3 doses of Narcan. They were able to save him. We had an overdose over at Lehman High School as well, a poisoning. That young lady luckily, she was already in the nurse's office because she wasn't feeling well. When she pretty much died in the nurse's office, they were able to administer Narcan and brought her back to life. But this is what we're seeing, like I said, on a weekly basis. And at times, over the last couple of months, it was almost a daily basis that we were going out responding to these calls. So this is, and they're continuing. So December, on New Year's Eve, we had a young lady overdose, got poisoned. Luckily, she is alive and doing well. But like I said, just 2 days ago, we've already had our first fentanyl-related death in Hays County. 14-year-old female, another Hays high school student. Like I said, it knows no demographic. So as we're going to and taking these calls and talking to these groups, it's not just whoever the druggies are or the bad kids. Like, we're going and dealing with athletes. We had a young lady, a very, very talented athlete out in Buda. She was on FaceTime with a friend of hers in the middle of the night and took some drugs, pills, and basically overdosed and was poisoned and pretty much died while she was on FaceTime. Luckily, she was on FaceTime because her friend was able to call her mother and wake her up. Mother came and found her, called first responders. Some of our deputies got there, administered some Narcan, and she's alive and doing well. And she's actually up in Fort Worth at some rehab places, and she's doing really, really well. And I'm pretty confident to say that she's going to start joining us at some of these presentations because she's doing really, really well. So that's exactly what we're seeing, and that's an overdose poisoning that actually occurred, and that's exactly what we're having to deal with. So here's kind of what we're seeing. I mentioned earlier the counterfeit pills that the cartels are making. You can't tell which one's real, which one's not, right, as you're looking at these photos. The Percocet pills is what we have been seeing a lot of over in Hays County. The blue pill on the left, the M30, the one on the left and one on the right. One of those is real, one of those is fake, right? One of those is an actual prescription pill you would get at a pharmacy, and one's not. We had an overdose over in Dripping Springs about a month ago. A 23-year-old male was taking Xanax. We found some Xanax next to him when we arrived, probably going to be laced with fentanyl. So this is what we tell these kids when we go and talk to the students is, if you're not getting a pill from your parents or from a doctor, don't take it, right? Some of these kids, unfortunately, get hooked on these pills for whatever reason. But I tell the kids this, it doesn't mean you're a bad kid or you're a druggie. Like, everybody, when you make that decision to take the drugs, there's a reason why, right? So that's what we try to tackle as law enforcement and mental health representatives and doctors, is to try to figure out the why. Why are you making that decision to take that drug or take the pill? Are you struggling in school? Are you getting bullied at school? Are your parents going through a divorce? Your boyfriend or girlfriend break up with you? Are you suffering from anxiety or depression? There's a variety of things and variety of stressors that these kids deal with these days that really we didn't have to deal with. Like, there was bullying back when I was in school, but there was no social media. So when you left school, you really didn't have to deal with the bully until you got back the next week. Well, a lot of the kids have the phones and the Snapchats, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. but the bullying continues. So there's a ton of stressors that these kids have to deal with. COVID, being isolated, there's a variety of things that have gone on the last couple of years that are contributing to this rise in the juveniles taking these illicit counterfeit pills. So this is a kind of a graphic that we kind of made on our own. So the pill on your left is a pill that you'd get at a pharmacy. It's a pharmaceutical grade pill, and the black dots are supposed to represent medication that's evenly distributed throughout that pill, right? That pill on the other side, on the right, is a counterfeit pill that you would get from a drug dealer. It's a pill made to look just like the pill on the left, but it's not. It's got a bunch of powder and fentanyl in it. And what they do is they press these pills so fast because they're trying to get them out on the streets to be sold that they don't care where the fentanyl is in them at all. They don't care if there's fentanyl in them. They don't care if there's too much fentanyl in it. They don't care where the fentanyl is at all. So they press these pills. So this particular pill here, all the fentanyl is the black dots. The black dots are fentanyl. So you see how it's all on the one side of the pill? I'll talk about an overdose over in Buda here about a month ago, 2 months ago. Boyfriend and girlfriend were out at the house, and they had one Percocet M30, what they believed to be a Percocet M30 pill, and they split it right down the middle. Boyfriend got the right-hand side of the pill, and the girlfriend got the left side of the pill. Girlfriend pretty much died instantly, not instantly, but pretty quick. Boyfriend was able to call first responders, got there, and they were able to revive her. But the boyfriend was basically like, what? I took the same pill. How come I didn't overdose? Well, this is an example of why. He didn't get hardly any fentanyl at all, so he probably didn't even get a high, but his girlfriend got all the fentanyl. So that is an example of what I like to show these kids and adults, because it's not just a kid thing, but they make these pills so fast, and they're illicit counterfeit pills that have no medication in it other than the fentanyl. And some of these kids, like Kevin McConville, they're not looking for fentanyl. He was taking those pills to help him sleep, and he was seeking out these pills from other people because he didn't have any more at home. That's how much fentanyl can kill you. It's not very much, right? I mentioned 2 milligrams. So a lot of these pills have much more. Like I said, it's almost 50% out of 5 of every 10. So what I tell the kids is, if you decide to take a pill that you didn't get from your parents or a doctor, you're basically playing Russian roulette. It's going to be 50% if you decide to take that pill. This is called rainbow fentanyl. This is kind of picked up hot and heavy, I don't know, about a month or two before Halloween. There's been some seizures here in Austin. It's fentanyl, it's pills, but it's made to look like candy, right? And the DEA has told us that they do that to try to attract the young folks, to try to get the young folks, right, to make it look like candy. There was a big outcry. At every presentation that I went to, I was asked about Halloween and trick-or-treating, and should I go trick-or-treating, should I let my kids trick-or-treat? And I told the parents and the kids this. I said, your neighbors aren't probably trying to poison your kids, right? Go out and trick-or-treat. Back when I was growing up in the early 80s, we were worried about razor blades and stuff and candy, et cetera. And when we went trick-or-treating, I had to come home, and my dad was an officer. So every time I came home with a big bowl of candy, I had to dump it out, and we went through it. And I told the parents, do the same thing. If it's loose candy, throw it away. But this is just illicit counterfeit pills made to look like candy. And a lot of times they do this also because they want to smuggle it into the country. So they put those candy-looking pills inside boxes of Skittles and Nerds, and that's how they smuggle it into the country. But they're also trying to target our young people by doing that. Signs of an overdose. And I stress this to the kids, but also the parents, because it may not be your kid. But also, and I tell all the parents this, don't say it will never be my kid, right? Like I said, I have 2 kids, one's 17, one's a senior, one's a freshman. I'm pretty open with them, like I said, but I'll never say it won't be my kid, right? My senior, probably not. My freshman, maybe. You never know. But really, I tell the kids this. I said, because I stress this to the kids because they're going to be the ones that are with their friends when they're out partying or at a party. And I tell them, once you start seeing some of these signs, get some help like immediately, right? I talked a little bit about Narcan. Unfortunately, it's got to be something that's got to be in your house. If you have kids, it's got to be something that's in your house. It may not be your kid, but little Johnny, who's suffering from anxiety and depression, is best friends with your kid. And you invited him over for a sleepover. And just like Kevin, he's got to take some pills to sleep. And he has an overdose, and you start seeing some of these signs. I mentioned the overdose on the Hayes High School campus. All of it's captured on our body cameras that we wear. I haven't got permission to show it at these presentations yet, but it's very, very impactful video, very powerful. It captures the entire thing, from pretty much being dead to being revived and him being like, what happened? But as I was watching these videos, you could see a lot of these signs as I watched that video. Let's talk a little bit about social media. This is huge. If you go to DEA emoji decoder, you can download that PDF there. But that's how these drugs are being sold on the streets. That's how these drugs are being sold on the campuses all across America. Every high school in Hayes County has vapes in it. It has every drug you can possibly think of. It has it. Dripping Springs, a lot of cocaine, a lot of acid, a lot of vapes in every high school in Hayes County. And I promise you there's vapes in every high school and probably middle school, unfortunately, in all over. I talk about social media to the parents. Your kids are pretty savvy with social media, right? If you allow your kids to have social media, I encourage you to learn as much as you can about any and every social media site that's out there. They know more about it than you do. Again, that they use it to not only buy and sell drugs, but they also use it for other criminal activities. We had a big fight club out in Dripping Springs after every home game, Friday night home game, and they would set up these fight clubs using social media. But again, from Facebook, like there's supposed to be some kind of there is a dark web, but there's like a dark Facebook, and they buy and sell using Instagram on the stories, the chat, the Snapchats, etc. It's very, very big. Out in Hayes County, a lot of our SROs set up fake social media accounts. And all the kids, all they want is to be influencers, right? They want to have a high number of followers. A lot of the folks that buy and sell and use at these high schools will start accepting friend requests from these SROs, these officers and deputies, and not even know it. So we're able to solve a lot of these cases using social media because our SROs are using social media and seeing it. Like they know when the drugs are being sold in the bathroom. They know when the fight club's going to happen. They know who's selling it because there's a picture of somebody's Jordans, and he's the only one at school that has these Jordans. So it's little stuff like that that our deputies see on their social media accounts that they set up. And these kids, all they want is followers, and when they want to be influencers, especially these drug dealers. And they don't care. They're flashy about it. They'll flash their guns. They'll flash their, there's Instagram stories where, a 15-year-old has thousands of dollars on his bed at home, and he's throwing it in the air. He has a gun. It could be your kid, and you don't even know it. It scares me to death because, like I said, I have 2 teenagers. But these emojis, this is how they're using it. That's how they're buying and selling it. Again, you can go to DEA One Pill Can Kill decoder, and you can download that for your research. But again, it's not just the social media sites, it's also the gaming, all the gaming sites that have the gaming apps that have messengers, and they can connect from people all over the world. The Crime Stoppers, this is real big in a lot of the schools. you can download the P3 app and you can submit tips anonymously. And we saw a big increase in these tips coming in when a lot of these students were starting to get poisoned and pass away. We're able to solve some of these crimes by a lot of these tips. So I encourage the parents and I encourage the kids to download this, and you're able to submit anonymous apps or anonymous tips that are sent to law enforcement for them to investigate. I talked about Narcan a little bit earlier. What we've learned is that a lot of these kids will go out and buy Narcan, and they'll take it with them to these parties, and they'll hand it to their friend and say, I'm going to take this pill. If I basically die, can you please shoot me up? I don't know if that's good or not. I mean, I don't know. But what I will say is that this stuff is so strong, the fentanyl is so strong, it's not taking just one dose or one injection of Narcan to bring somebody back. That incident there that you watched behind Camino Real Elementary School, that surveillance video, it took 6 doses of Narcan before that young man was able to be brought back. And pretty much every case that I've seen in Hays County, at least, it's been 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 doses of Narcan before someone's able to come back. So again, it's not, and I talked about vapes. We haven't seen this yet in Hays County, and I don't think Travis County either, but DEA tells us that you'll start seeing liquid fentanyl in some of these vapes. And you guys know how prevalent vaping is in every school, right? Again, we haven't seen it, but these refillable vapes are starting to come back, and we're afraid that they'll start liquefying this fentanyl and putting it into the vapes. So it's not just vapes, but I also mentioned marijuana earlier as well. The drug dealers are putting fentanyl in the marijuana that they're growing and then sending across the border. So it's not just. So what I tell everybody is the days of experimenting are over. They have to be over. You know, back when I was in high school, it talks about you smoking marijuana to experiment. The marijuana these days is so much more powerful than what was around when I was a kid. So I tell the kids, and I'm pretty upfront with them, it's like those days have to be over with. This stuff is so powerful, and it's in every single street drug that's being sold, and it's poisoning our young people at a rapid rate. I've been in law enforcement for 24 years. I've put many a drug dealer in prison. The war on drugs has been going on for a long time. We're not going to win the war on drugs at all, right? But if we can continue to make arrests and take 4 or 5 pills or 1 pill off the street at a time or 1 ounce of powder off the street at one time, we're saving somebody's life, right? If I take 10 pills off the street, I'm potentially saving 5 people's life, right? Or if I can come to a presentation like this or in front of 1,000 students, and if I can keep one person from deciding to take drugs, or if I can have one person that's battling an addiction or battling something that's causing them to make that decision, if I can get them to reach out, if I can save one person at every presentation or have one person say, I need some help, then I can sleep well at night knowing that what we're doing is helping, right? And I tell the kids, I said, I'm not going to save everybody. I realize that. Back in '98 when I graduated the police academy, it was like, I'm saving the world. I'm saving everybody. But over time, you come to realize that you can't save everybody. I guess I accept it, but I know that I'm not going to save everybody. But again, if we can save one person at a time, or if I can keep one person from making that decision, or have one person say, hey, can you find me some help, then we can sleep well at night. So what we've seen at some of these presentations throughout Hays County is the number of students that have come forward to their pediatrician, to counselors, to teachers, that they've started asking for help throughout Hays County. And the number is pretty high. It's so high that the school district has reached out to us and like, can you please help us find rehab places? Because these folks are coming forward and asking for help, but these rehab places are turning them away because there's no beds for them, right? So, we've teamed up with Dell, we've teamed up with Seton Kyle, Dr. Duke, and some other folks to try to figure out ways to help everybody, not just the juveniles. So that's an ongoing process. We're trying to maybe come up with some peer-to-peer focus groups throughout Hays County and any other county that wants to help. There's not many folks that are coming out and doing these type of presentations. I think me and Mark and some other folks are the only ones that are doing it throughout this region. Again, we've traveled, pretty much all over Central Texas doing these presentations because, again, we're not going to tell everybody no, and fentanyl is just not a Hays County problem. Before we open it up to questions, I'm going to have a couple folks come up and tell their story. The first one I'm going to have come up is Hunter Wheeler. His son Spencer was a Westlake student, or was in the Westlake School District a couple of years ago, and he passed away this year. And he has graciously contacted me, and he wanted to come tell his story. And I said, absolutely, come on up. So he's here tonight, and he's he'll be the first of two speakers to speak and tell his story. So Hunter, if you'd come on up.
Hello? Okay. Thanks, Anthony. Not a public speaker, but I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to share my story in hopes that it saves just one life. And I think that it will. And if we can, the more we can do this, then the better, because this is an extremely dangerous situation that we're in. I also want to thank Representative Howard for being here, State Representative Howard, because we definitely need the help of the government as well. In order to kind of, because I'll go all over the place, but I want to start out telling a little bit about Spencer. We grew up here in Westlake, so we're very close to this community. It's mostly why I really wanted to be here tonight. They went through Eanes Elementary School, Hill Country Middle School, and then we had moved out of district and ended up in Austin. Spencer was so close to me and his mom and his sister, best friends, wonderful friends here. A lot of the parents here know Spencer, knew him. He, in sixth grade, Spencer was, he changed a little bit. We saw a change in Spencer, and he was a victim in a sexual predator that was preying on kids in Eanes, Travis, I think even Hays, and he was a Snapchat guy. He's in jail now, serving like 100 years. He called himself the Loader, Lord of the Rings on Snapchat, and these kids he would groom them with vapes and then get to know them better, and he'd meet them at the Raising Cane's over in Westlake, and then he would get to know them and give them alcohol. Lisa and I didn't know that this happened. We just noticed a change in him. He started coping by, in the sixth grade using marijuana, and that scared us to death. So what do? We send him to rehab for 30 days. And then he comes back, and then we're just watching him, changing schools, trying everything. We've finally found out after the second rehab that this was kind of the reason in his way of coping, and nobody knew it. And looking back, this tight community, rather than blaming a child for using drugs or trying drugs or smoking marijuana, let's love on these kids and change the stigma, and it takes a village. Let's get them help, and let's not be embarrassed about this. I'm up here right now telling these things, and I was embarrassed. As a parent, I was embarrassed that my son would use drugs. But his mom and sister and I were all over it, and we thought that if we could just keep him, love on him, and till the day he died, he would give you a hug before bed. He was not afraid to say, "I love you," even at 17 years old. So he was a normal kid. We just thought that if we watched him, and he and his mom were going to move to Costa Rica, and he was signed up for international school, and we thought that just a good full immersion experience would save him. And he passed away 3 weeks before they were to move to Costa Rica. And so a little bit about that trauma. So this is a normal high school kid, loving kid, not afraid to take risk at all. So as many of our kids are not, or they're young, they're going to take risk and kind of step beyond. And that's what makes this so dangerous. Just one, you could have a kid like Spencer that his story is a little longer, and there was a reason for his coping and using. You have some kids that may just experiment one time and die. I don't know how many pills Spencer had taken in his life before he finally got the lethal dose. And we'll never know, but it can take one. I know kids and have met parents of kids that have died with one pill. Okay, to really hit home, I'm going to talk about the worst day of my life. Spencer, I went on a guys trip on a Wednesday. This is like September 13th. I'd flown out to Georgia on an annual guys trip, like 15th year in a row. And everything was good that Wednesday. Thursday, it was the 14th, September 14th. September 15th, it was like 11 a.m. and Spencer's mom was calling me, and I don't know if we were playing golf or swimming or whatever, and finally she gets through to my brother, and my brother comes up to me and just says, "Hunter, sit down." He didn't even let me sit down. He didn't let me sit down. He just put his arms on me and said, "Hunter, Spencer passed away last night." And I was in Georgia. And it took me until it was about 8 hours with a layover in Atlanta, of flying home, and just in my head, and crying and not crying. I watched the House of Gucci on the TV on the Delta airline, and I don't remember any of it. But I get home, and to my family was there at the airport and picked me up, and we cried, and just still surreal. And then I look back, and Spencer's mom and sister, I had the easy side of things. I didn't get to see him before he left, which kills me. But his mom woke him, or found him dead in bed that morning, and had to pull him off the bed, give him CPR, try to revive him. Had all the commotion of the EMS and the DEA and everybody coming in, and it is the worst thing that you can ever imagine. It is like I have to do everything I can do just to maintain normalcy and not just to keep my life together, and thank God for family and friends and all the loving people in the community. It definitely helps, but every day is bad. You do not want to be up here on this stage, and that's why I'm here sacrificing and doing what I can do to maybe save a life. There's a few things that, so that's our story in a nutshell. Lost this beautiful, beautiful boy. gone. So then you just hope that there's a God in heaven that he's here with us. You just hope that he's here with us tonight, and I do believe that he is. Going back to the education, that's my story, and it's impacted me. Don't let it impact you. Let's open up conversation with our kids. I want teachers to open up. I want people to, your friends, your kids' friends, like as parents, like listen to them, hear them out, help them. Get help. This is not a bad stigma. It should not be embarrassing for somebody to seek help. We have it, if a child has cancer, we've got St. Jude's, and we've got Dell Children's and MD Anderson and all these wonderful places that they can get help. Mental health and options for mental health, those are starting to step up and help kids. If you are addicted to a drug, it is like a disease. They need help. We need medical help to save lives. If I could have bought 10 days more for Spencer to bring him down into a more, detox to where he and I could really have a really good conversation with no withdrawal, that could have saved his life. There's a lot of things we can do. Okay, 3 more minutes. There's a list of things that I think education-wise are really, really important for parents to know. One, if your kid has an app called Telegram on their phone, that is a drug app. That is to sell drugs. I think they're owned in Saudi Arabia or Dubai. They don't share data. It's all encrypted. And the kids know that. It's used in China and Saudi Arabia, and it's big in these places where the government scrutinizes everything you say, so they use it in those countries so that the government can't see what they're talking about. In America, it's used for dealing drugs. Bad app. Have the password to your phone, to your kids' phones. Have access to that password. The DEA came in after Spencer died that same day, took Spencer's phone. We had the password, and it was a gold mine for the DEA. They had access to everything. They were able to set the guy that murdered my son, they set him up and had him in jail within 7 days. It is a little bit of closure. It doesn't help. It doesn't bring him back. But that guy had a bunch of pills on him, and he would have killed somebody else. I asked the DEA, how much did this guy make? How much money did this guy make to take my kid's life? He said, Hunter, your son traded a set of virtual reality goggles, and I guess they were $200 or $300, and he got 10 pills, and they were these blue Perk 30s. They're not real. I don't even think Percocet makes them to look like that anymore because of what's going on now. That pill is not real. He gave my son 10, and Spencer died on the second one. There were still 8 more left. And I think it was an Altoids or some cartridge box. Telegram, passwords for the kids' phones, critical. Pills are fake. Let me get my notes here because I did write a few more. Narcan, I think Anthony summed that up. Keep Narcan in your purse, in your car, somewhere. Have it, and it's like an EpiPen, except it's nasal, and you just shove it in there and do it. And a lot of these kids that I see are dying at night, and that's just so unfortunate. You know, it's wonderful when you hear about some of the kids' lives being saved by this drug that's awesome, and somebody gets to walk on them and find them. A lot of the ones that I see dying are passing away overnight, and they're alone, so nobody can see them dying. I think that's about it for my story. I don't. I'm going to keep advocating all I can. This is my very first time to speak to anybody, so I hope that it was a little bit informative. I'll probably get better as time goes on. But anyway, thank you so much, everybody. And tell all your friends, please, tell them all to listen.
Oh,
Is that
you
all
can just
right?
skip it to her, yeah. Oh, you did good, man. You did really good. Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you, Hunter. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, he mentioned a couple things, right? So he talked about the stigma, and I talked to the kids, and like, if you're doing the drugs, it doesn't mean you're a bad kid, right? So we try to remove that stigma from the kids, and we also tell the parents the same way, because the parents get embarrassed because their kids are getting arrested or are in rehab or whatever. But it's very important for everybody. Like, we're a family, right? It's very important for everybody to get rid of the stigma and try to help these folks that just because they're addicted to a pill doesn't mean they're a bad person, right? He talked about cell phones. That's your cell phone. If you give your kid a phone, it's very important for you to realize that that's your phone. Take it, look through it, familiarize yourself with every aspect of every app and gaming app that they have on their phone. Did they get the pictures loaded? Perfect. So, okay, cool. I'm gonna bring up Janelle Dunn. Janelle has been with us since my first presentation. Her son Noah passed away on August 21st down in San Marcos. Like, as I mentioned earlier, knows no demographic, doesn't care if you're white, blue, black, or have money or don't have money. Her son was an AB honor roll student, was a football player at Johnson High School. And as the website says, one pill can kill. So she is here and has done a wonderful job telling her story. She's never told me no. Janelle, thank you so much for being here. Let me get it.
Hey guys, so my name's Janelle, and this is my son Noah, and I know with the lights and everything y'all probably can't see, so we're trying to get those pictures up. But he was 15, and like Deputy said, he was an honor roll student, played football, basketball, track. Yeah. Just a good kid, had lots of friends, grew up in Buda. A lot of community influences, you know, just good kid. One second. Okay, so I typically don't do this at my speakings, but I feel like it's important, and a lot of people don't know this part of our story. Our community does, but a lot of other people don't. So our story really starts in May. It's really hard for me to talk about still. But my husband and I were at a splash pad with our 4-year-old and our 1.5-year-old, and just having a great time. And I'm not paying attention to my phone. For some reason, I just happen to look down, and I have like 10 missed calls. And I'm trying to call this number back, but they're trying to call me at the same time. finally answered the call. Guy says, "Is this Janelle, Noah's mom?" And I said, "Yes, this is she." And he said, "This is so-and-so from Kyle PD." And I said, "Okay, how can I help you?" He's like, "I need you to come to this address immediately. Your son is unresponsive." So I'm like, "What? What's going on? What happened?" He's like, "Man, we don't know. We're trying to figure out what's going on." So right away, like by my reaction, my husband goes and grabs the girls in their swimsuits, all wet, loads them up. He's like, "Come to this address." As soon as he gave me the address, I knew where my son was at because I knew where all his friends lived. He's like, "Don't hang up with me." So I have him on speakerphone. I'm texting all my family, like, "Noah's unresponsive. We don't know what's going on. Meet me at the hospital." So then the officer says, "You know what? Don't even come to the address. Just go straight to the hospital." And I'm like, "What's going on? Tell me what's going on." And he's like, "We don't know. We don't know." So cutting all that, we don't get to see my son for maybe an hour and a half later when he finally arrives at the hospital. And we were told that he had overdosed. And we were like, "What? What do you mean he overdosed?" No. So they're going to fly him to Dell Children's. He gets to Dell Children's. They do a tox report, and he had cocaine, benzos, and pot in his system. They were surprised that fentanyl did not show up in his tox report. Noah spent 4 days in ICU on life support. They were monitoring his brain and, all that stuff. We spent a total of 7 days at the hospital. When we returned, the 4th day when Noah woke up, the first thing he told me was, he said, "Mom, he said, I did coke yesterday." And I said, "No, baby, you did coke 4 days ago." And he said, "What?" And he started looking around and realizing where he was at. He had no clue. And he starts crying, and he said, "I'm so sorry." And I said, "Don't get worked up right now. We'll talk about it when you get a little better." I said, just rest right now. And he said, "All right." So we get home. We talk about what's going on. We make some agreements on some things. Got my son back for the summer, right? He said, Mom, I'm never going to do that again. Like, that was stupid. I will never do that again. Okay. We still had to build trust. He had lost our trust, when we were working on that. But for the summer, we had our son back. He was home. He was happy. He wanted to be home. He wanted to go places with us. I had my son. So in August, I experienced the most joyful thing a parent can experience and the most painful thing a parent can experience. On August 5th, I gave birth to my 4th child, a little boy. And I was diagnosed with postpartum anxiety, which was not fun. August 20th, we're celebrating my older brother's birthday, and and we're at his house. We're all by the pool, barbecuing, listening to music, watching boxing fights. Whole family was there. It was about 6 o'clock. We were ready to go, and Noah was like, we knew he was going to stay at his friend's house. And he's like, are y'all going to drop me off? And I said, yeah. So on the way to his friend's house, I'm like, you know what, Noah, your birthday's coming up in October. You're going to be 16. I had always told him that when he turned 16, he was going to have the party of the century, right? I said, what do you want to do? Like, we're planning on giving him my truck. It's having a really big thing. And he said, I don't really know yet, but I do want a tres leches cake. I said, all right. So I got on the phone immediately, booked my cake lady. I said, let's do 150 servings of tres leche. She's like, you got it. We pull up to the friend's house, and Noah's saying goodbye to his siblings. And I said, we'll pick you up tomorrow after church. And he said, okay. I said, I love you. And he said, I love you too, Mom. Gets out, shuts the door, starts walking to the house. My husband starts driving away. And I said, no, stop. I want to see him walk in that house. So he stops. And that was the last time I saw my son. Four hours later, I get a phone call at midnight. And the first thing I hear is somebody screaming in the background. And it's one of those screams you hear in a horror film. The person on the phone says, Janelle, I think Noah overdosed. No. C-sectioned, can barely move, laying on the couch. I get up. I start pacing back and forth. No. My husband gets up, thinks I'm having an anxiety attack. Calm down, do your breathing treatments, just breathe. And I said, it's not me, it's Noah. He starts getting dressed. The person on the line says, I've been doing CPR on him for 20 minutes. Every time I push on him, there's vomit coming out of his nose. She said, I'm getting tired. She had already called EMS. They were just waiting for EMS to get there. And I begged her, please don't stop. Please don't stop. And she said, I'm not. And I said, put him on his side. Don't stop, please. And she's like, I won't. I have 3 small kids at home, right? They're all asleep. Noah was so close to his 4-year-old sister, I didn't want to take her to the scene. So we couldn't just take off immediately. I called my pastor's wife. I said, we have an emergency with Noah. Can you come over and be with the children so we can head out? She said yes. Took her about 25 minutes to get to us. During this time, my family was still at my brother's house, which literally across the highway from where Noah was at. They were all able to make it to the scene right away. We weren't able to leave until about 30 minutes later. We live in Buda. Noah was in San Marcos. That's about another 20-minute drive. We get to the house, and I'm expecting to get out of that car, and I'm gonna go run inside, and I'm gonna save my son, right? I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna let him know I'm here, and he's gonna be okay. I get off the car, and my mom is standing about 3 to 5 feet in front of me. And she looks down and shakes her head. Sorry. And I had realized I just lost my son. First responders came up to us, said that they had worked on him for another 45 minutes, gave him 2 Narcan injections. And he just didn't respond to it. They asked if we wanted to go inside and see him, and I said no. And I said no because I had been dealing with anxiety, and that was just the best choice for me at the time. The next time I saw my son was at his funeral. The church we go to in Kyle can seat about 200 people. His service was standing room only. Every teenager that came up to me to give their condolences, I talked to them and I said, you don't want this. You've got to do better. This is not a joke. Do not put your parents through this. Every single one. Days later, overdose here, overdose there. His friends. This is my son now, part of him. This is how I spend my time with him. This is how we go and buy Slurpees or bean and cheese tacos or shopping. Well, now he can't tell me no, he doesn't want to go shopping with me. So he has no choice now. It's now my mission to spread awareness. If I see a teenager, and I'm only talking about teenagers because it affected me because my son was a teenager. But everybody needs that extension of grace. But for me, if I see a teenager at 7-Eleven, at Walmart, wherever, hey, have you heard of fentanyl? Let me tell you about my son. You know, I'm handing out flyers at Costco's parking lot. We, looking back, noticed changes in Noah. Sometimes he wouldn't eat for days. Sometimes he would overeat. And I would question him. Hey, you know, I've noticed you haven't eaten. Oh, I ate at so-and-so's house. He had an answer for everything. And looking back now, I know why, you know. I've been raising money to get a billboard. The fentanyl issue has hit Hays County pretty badly. And I've become really good friends with the other families that have lost their children as well. So our billboard actually goes up on Sunday, and it'll be in Kyle, and it'll have the faces of Noah, Kevin McConville, the one in the video, and then another boy. And it's gonna say, fentanyl steals your friends. So if y'all are in the area, I'm actually having a picnic out there just to show my appreciation for everybody. There'll be some educational flyers, some goodie bags, some food. You guys are more than welcome to head out there. I did start the Forever 15 project in honor of my son. We're still working on adding more resources to that. As soon as I can find some good ones, I will add them on there. Thank you. Thank you for being here. To be honest, this is probably the biggest crowd that we've had at one of our speakings. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Janelle. It's a big crowd, isn't it?
There's several here in the crowd.
Oh, okay.
They kind of want to make a statement.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Did I turn this on?
It's on.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. One more thing. So Christian family here, middle class, like Deputy said, does not have any, does not discriminate. So there may be even people in the audience today who have lost someone and you don't even know. And if you have lost someone to fentanyl,
Thank you for being here.
I don't know who's
Good.
here. Yeah, I don't know who's here.
Thank you for being here. It's awesome. Anybody else? If you want to come up, you can.
Sorry to cry.
No, you're good. Don't apologize.
Sorry. Is this on?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that, sorry, I feel like addiction isn't talked about enough, and, my family never would have thought I would be addicted to, like, fentanyl of all things or anything. Like, I was an athlete, I was a swimmer, I ran cross country, I was a straight A student, got a scholarship to college, and so I'm clean now, but it took me 3 rehabs and some relapses, and now I'm on medication I have to be on probably for the rest of my life, so I don't relapse. And I just wanted to say that, like, please talk to your kids. I know it's not a comfortable conversation to have, but, like, please do, because I've lost so many people, and I've almost died, and I don't want anyone to have to go through that road that I've been down. So that's all I want to say. And if your kid is addicted, please be nice to them, because I don't think I'd be here today without my dad or my family or anyone. So that's it. Thank you guys for
Thank you
talking
so
about
much.
it.
It's awesome. Again, it touches everybody. So it's very, very powerful. Yes, ma'am. You can come up if you want. Thank you for being here. And there's thousands upon thousands of those stories. Yes, ma'am.
Our grandson, he was 22 years old. He died on Christmas Day.
Thank you for being here.
I lost my son, Joshua Bell, to January 2019 to fentanyl poisoning. My son is in May 27, 2022. He died of fentanyl poisoning.
Thank you for being here. Yes, ma'am. There's the microphone right behind you.
It's okay. This is a wonderful presentation. Thank everybody for being here. Fentanyl does cross over. It is a problem. This is my son, John. He passed away May 10th, 2022 of this past year. Fentanyl poisoning. And he was 38. He was older, college graduate, degree, business development manager, had just landed the biggest deal of his career, and took what he thought was going to help him sleep that night. And just like you said, it was not the pill that he thought it was. So thank you all very much for this, and I hope we can raise some awareness.
Thank you for being here. Yes.
This is the first time I've been here since. He was athletic, he was smart, he was loved by all. And he died from taking what he thought was a Valium, and it was fentanyl. I found him in his condo. And it's something that none of you want to ever experience. If you haven't been affected yet, please get involved. Please educate yourself and your friends and your family. so you don't have to experience this. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Went through the experience of being in the same house where he died. We were there when they called it. You don't want to do that. If you believe there's something wrong, there probably is. In your house, there's no such thing as privacy, no space. You can get into anything you want to concerning your children if you really love them. So that's my advice to y'all. Be involved in every phase. Don't go through what we did. Thank you.
We got a few minutes for Q&A if you guys have any questions. If I can't answer them, I bet you Dr. Duke can. If you have a question, you can come on up. You can.
What was the name of that app mentioned? The name of the app.
Telegram.
Can you disguise it, or is it obvious what it is?
It's obvious, yeah. Yeah. It's a messaging, unencrypted messaging system. Yeah.
Sir, when will be another event like this, and can we bring our children to this event, like our child?
Yeah, you can. So the superintendent mentioned earlier, we'll be at the middle schools here in Eanes ISD in the next week, and then we'll be speaking to the high school kids on January 23rd here in the same building. So we'll hit all the schools here in Eanes ISD as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yes, ma'am.
I'm having a very hard time. And they even had an overdose in school just a few weeks ago. I mean, I am on the shack board. I'm bombarding them with emails and pictures and everything I can. Why is it so difficult? There's a superintendent here, right? Why is it so difficult that we cannot be a united front in the education program, not district by district, school by school? I don't understand it.
Yeah, I can't speak for Pflugerville, but you're not the first person who's mentioned that to me about Pflugerville ISD. They're having a hard time. But I'll reach out to their police department and see if I can get in that way. Yeah. Yeah, you're not the first person who's mentioned that. You can come on up right here.
Thank you. This is just a practical question, and maybe it's for the doctor, but how effective are the testing strips? You know, if we know someone who is actively using, and we don't want to be in denial about that, but we want to try to help them be as safe as they can until they can not be addicted, if ever possible, how effective can the testing strip be?
I don't have a lot of experience with the commercially available ones. If you want to really know, it would be taking them into the doctor and getting an actual test. That's what you can hang your hat on for sure.
Yeah, we send all our pills out. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Sorry, she was first.
This is just a question about if someone gets marijuana from a legal dispensary, like out of state, are cartels involved with that at all, or is that safer?
No. If you're getting it from a legal dispensary in Colorado, or even the CBD shops here in Austin, the chances of you getting fentanyl are probably slim to none.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
On the testing strip issue, they're actually illegal in Texas, and in a lot of other states, they have had success by not getting kids to take pills because they've turned up dirty. So
I'll let Hunter speak to that. He was talking about that earlier if you want.
The state rep is right here, so she's...
I didn't want to put her on the spot quite yet, but...
There is a bill, right?
Yes, there's actually several bills that have been filed that would remove it from being drug paraphernalia, and so that it can be available to use. And my understanding is that it is fairly effective. if you have the strips to use, yeah.
And I'm going to learn more about how to test, because I think you can actually, I've been trying to research it because it sounds daunting and very hard, but I think it's very easy. I think you could, if you found a baggie of cocaine or pills, Perk 30s, blue pills, Xanax, whatever, you could shake it up and get it all powdery in there. Don't break the pills, dump them out, put a quarter tablespoon of water in there, and then dip this testing strip in, and it's going to tell you if there's fentanyl in there or not.
And I would encourage, if we do get these legal in Texas, that hotline that you were talking about to be numbered on the test strips so that people can make anonymous tips about dirty drugs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you.
So I did get the fentanyl test strips. I had them sent somewhere else and brought them here because I wanted to test some of my son's stuff. I never found out exactly what he took, but I did find like a little mirror, and it comes with a liquid. You dip something in the liquid, and you can just go over the powder, put it back in the liquid, and then there's a little strip you put in there, and then that'll tell you if it's got fentanyl. And his stuff did come out positive, so actually don't know if he was taking fentanyl and he knew it, or he took something like the pills, because we don't know. There was no evidence of anything. But because of the hot spots in the pills, like you talked about, you have to actually crush the whole pill, and you take a little bit and put that in there, because if you just do the powder in there, you might not
get it.
Yeah, it might not pick up the hot spot. So they have to crush the whole pill, take a little bit of that, now put it in the baggie, and then take a little bit, and then you could test it that way.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Hi. Thank you all very much to the families and Sheriff for being here. Obviously, we came here for information, and this is way more, meaningful and impactful than one anticipated. So truly, I guess my question is more broad around what the messaging is for children or for parents around drugs in general, right? Because I'm a DARE kid. And so that's kind of my kids are really little, so they're not even in this stage yet. They're in elementary school, but this really does scare me as a parent. And so I'm curious, like, what is the messaging for all parents and for ourselves around how we think about the drugs, right? Because you said experimentation is over, but is it the one pill can kill? Is it what is there?
Yeah, everybody has their different slogans, but one pill can kill is one of the most popular ones. But Eanes ISD has starting to they have information in the elementary schools now. They're animated, drawings and stuff like that, but their messaging centered around not doing drugs. Like I tell the kids, I'm not here to scare you straight. I'm not here to say don't do drugs. I'm here to tell you about this drug and how powerful it is, and also to encourage you, like if you're taking the pills, it doesn't mean you're a bad kid. You're not a bad person. You're addicted to something. Let's figure out why and get you the help that you need. So yeah, you're right. The DARE program was around for a long time. It's kind of gone away. We talked about maybe starting something like that in Hays County, but the education needs to start down at the elementary school for sure. And we've gone to several elementary school PTAs and talked to parents about this. Yes.
And I just wanted to say, I'm a pediatrician, and so one of the things that we're always just encouraging parents to do is open lines of communication from very early ages, and really having a family media plan. So when you decide on your family values surrounding media and exposure to it, when the right time is to get a phone and when the right time is to get these other platforms, then just really having your values represented by that. Because so much, like Deputy Hippolito was saying, the kids are bombarded with so much information and so much bullying, and there's just so many more pressures. A lot of that kind of extends to talking about drugs and being open and just really having that open door for your kid to come to you when there is an issue and then when they do need help. And I want to thank the young person who was here today. I think maybe she's left, but I think that it was really brave of her to talk about that. And the point that she made about being able to go to her parent I think is something that all of us, myself as a parent as well, can kind of hold on to. Not that it's a blanket statement for something that's going to save everyone, but it's maybe one more layer of strategy.
I do want to say we are getting the question of, and I'll come to you, sorry. We are getting the question of how, if this is being recorded, and if so, how we'll distribute it. We are recording it, and I will send it out to our families that we have in our system, but we will also have it on our website if you are not a parent here in the district, so we will have that.
Awesome.
Hi, I wanted to thank everybody tonight for being brave and sharing your stories with me, and for you for sharing this information. I have two teenagers in the Vandergrift High School, so in Leander School District, and I came here tonight really just to get more information about a forum that we're having on Wednesday, January 18th at Austin Christian Fellowship up in the 4 Points area. And we are going to be having a forum similar to this with, I believe, Travis County is going to be representing us there, as well as several Sisters in Grief is what they call themselves, and they are wanting to share their stories as well. With the kids, kids are invited, parents are invited. It's trying to get through to the teenagers in that area as well, just to what's going on. So I invite anybody that's able to, January 18th at 7 o'clock at Austin Christian Fellowship in the 4 Points area. If you can come and share your story, I know my kids would love to hear that, and I would be very grateful.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
I heard there's a state representative here, so I just have a quick question. When they first let school out from with COVID, Andron was 15 years old. He had his first poisoning. Him and his friends decided to try Percocet. He was poisoned. They had to rush him to the hospital. As soon as he got there, they had to resuscitate him. He was in a coma. He had to learn to walk, talk, eat, everything again. I begged everybody in Travis County because my son suffered from mental health. He was on probation in which he failed every single drug test that they gave him. I reached out to mental health counselors. I mean, anybody you can think of, I begged for help to make it mandatory that Andron went to some in-house treatment. Paying for it wasn't a problem, of course, because he had medical assistance with his mental health. They denied me, saying that in the state of Texas, at the age of 12, they were able to make their own decision whether they got help or not. As you can see, he didn't receive the help. Is that still true, or is it something we can do about that? Because I don't think at the age of 12, they think they have a problem. They're just trying to fit in, actually. The age of, at the age of 12.
I'm sorry I can't address that directly. I'm not really sure what you're referring to in terms of, you're saying that they would not require the child to stay in the facility? Is that the?
They wouldn't make it mandatory that he.
They have to consent to it after, I think, 12 or 13, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
He had the right to consent to him needing treatment.
But by him being on probation at that young age and being allowed to fail every one of his drug tests, I feel like it should have been court mandated that he go to drug rehab. There's no way that he should have been on probation and able to fail every last one of his drug tests, and nothing was ever done about it. So I think what she's trying to say is that needs to be addressed. That should be something that if your child is on probation and he's allowed by his probation officer to fail every last test and she's begging for help, for them to get it court mandated and he goes to get help, I think that's something that should be looked into, because I don't even know an adult that can go in and report to their probation officer and fail a drug test and not get sent back to prison or not get some kind of something done, you know? So I think that's what she's trying to say, like something should be done about that because that wasn't okay.
There's so much that's being talked about tonight. This is just one more thing. Clearly, there's a huge amount of work that we need to do here in the state to address all kinds of issues that are being brought up tonight. I will definitely follow up on what you're asking about. I don't know enough about that, so I'd have to find out. But those of you, basically everybody in here, I assume is in the Austin area, and you have the luxury of being geographically in the place where the state capitol is. And you obviously have your state representative if you live here. I'm your state representative, but there's a bunch of us here, and even those that aren't your representative need to hear from you about what you want us to do here. We have a part-time legislature. We're only here for 5 months every other year, making laws about all kinds of things. We have a huge budget with a huge surplus this time. This is the time that we need to hear from you about what you want to push us to do. There's so much to cover. There's so many things that need to be done. All I can tell you is that I will have an open door. I want to hear from you. I want to do whatever I can to address the concerns that I'm hearing about tonight. But this is really something that needs to be a statewide effort. And this is a very powerful community, a very engaged, politically connected community. Your voices need to be heard, that this is a high priority. And I'm hearing from my colleagues that mental health issues are going to take precedence over a lot of things this time. We'll see. And there's a lot being talked about addressing school mental health. That's going to require funding. We need to make sure that we know this is a high priority so that we can address those things. But I appreciate the opportunity to hear from everybody tonight. I will take this back to my colleagues at the Capitol and talk with them about it, those that want to hear about this. But certainly make your voices heard and ensure that you are pushing for the kinds of things that you think we need to be doing. Because without your pushing for it, it likely won't happen. So that's the best I can do right now, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here to hear from everybody.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm an employee here at Eanes, and my question is, how can you help someone that's reluctant or seems to be reluctant to take in the help to get off of fentanyl?
Yeah, the doctor may be able to speak a little bit on it, but a couple of the doctors that have helped us out in previous presentation, it said that it takes an average of 5 rehab stints before it actually sticks. All you can do is offer the help and continue to offer the help, continue to love, but you can't force anybody to do that, right? So that's what you have to do. Yeah.
Hi, my daughter is younger, but she's been asking for a cell phone a lot. Christmas, birthday, all that. I've said no so far. When you look at all the safety factors, what age would you give your child a cell phone?
Well, I'm not sure I'm the right person to ask that question because, like I said, I have a freshman, and I gave her a phone too early. There's not an age, right? You know your kid better than anybody, and each kid matures at different levels. You know, some quicker, some not so much, right? So it just depends on your kid, right? I'm a parent. I'm not perfect. I screwed up. I gave my freshman probably 7th grade, and it has directly affected her over the last couple of years. I finally yanked her phone, took all the social media off of it, and just the other day, she's like, "Dad, I'm the happiest I've ever been without social media." And that was so impactful to me. And when she came up, she just told me that. She's been all smiles for a month now because I've taken her social media away. So that's how impactful and that social media has on our kids. It just drags them down. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's one of the points that I wanted to bring up. I think that, a few years back, I realized that social media, it's in fact the silent, for lack of a better word, enemy. I myself, I'm not in social media. It's been like 4 years, and it's been hard. My kid's now in high school. The first one, he's a freshman here at Westlake. We gave him a phone for his 14th birthday. And the younger one who is at Hill Country, we just gave him one. It's one of those things, damn if you do, damn if you don't. The question that I have is, nationwide and worldwide, I see what type of statistics are they gathering? The experts, the doctors, the physicians, the psychiatrists, anything and anyone that you can think of. What are the emotions that are targeting our society to come to this point? I come from a family that I don't even take an Advil, but that's just me, and I use essential oils, whatever, meditation, do the dance or whatever.
You sound like my wife.
But not every family has that. And I think, okay, so my children are asking me now for social media. And again, damn if I do and damn if I don't. I don't want to traumatize them because everybody else does it. Everybody else has it. My friend told me that, they want to send me this. My friend told me, and I said, baby, if they jump off the cliff, are you going to jump off the cliff? But at this point, I feel that our society in general, like you said, no matter what color, no matter what social status you're in, everybody's jumping off the bridge. Everybody's doing it. And I think, when are we going to be conscious about it? When are we really going to say, no more? I see in a nationwide, at a federal level, I see that certain senators are pressing Facebook, are pressing Instagram, and pressing Snapchat and TikTok especially. And I'm not going to get political here, but what I see, there is a side of the spectrum politically that wants our people dead. They want this nation dead. And that scares me because where I come from, my country, it's also going down the drain without even thinking about it. And I don't want to get political because your political favoritism. But it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, social media is fairly new, right? It's only been
It
around
is.
like 10
in the past
or 12 years.
It's like all of a sudden, whoa, what happened?
Yeah.
And
it's
not
growing,
possible.
Yeah. So it's been around, probably Facebook's been around about 12 years. So we're just now seeing the effects of how it affects the mind.
Yeah.
And how, I'm
my
sure.
question again,
Yeah.
Maybe for the doctor, what are the emotions that our young kids are going through that is targeting this? Yes, I know depression. Yes, I know anxiety. Yes, but I also see that they're shoving it into them. Are you depressed? Are you this? Are you that? Are you, when are we connecting ourselves as parents, as human beings, to our children instead of hammering, go to your safe area and go to your safe space and, okay, we are, as parents, where is our safe area? I think that's where I want to get to. We as parents, we really need to connect to our inner child so that we can help our kids, because at the end of the day, it all comes with us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's what I stress to every family is like, your family better than anybody else. You know your kids, so have those conversations. If you want to give them a phone, by all means, go for it. But be in that phone every single day, especially if you're going to go social media. Yes, ma'am.
I've got two questions.
Yep.
First one, just about the drugs in general. Is fentanyl is it kind of a drug slipped in to different things, or are people just actually taking a pill of fentanyl? Or both?
It's usually inside something else. You're not going to take pure fentanyl because you'll die almost guaranteed. So it's inside these pills. It's inside the marijuana, inside the vapes, inside the any type of drug you can think of. It's going to be there. Yes.
And then this is probably more towards you, but why would a drug dealer put fentanyl in it and kill what you're saying 5 out of 10? Possibility of
Yeah, I get that question. I get that question a lot. They know if they kill somebody by their pill, someone else is going to come right behind them and buy the next pill. What they don't want is what happened over at Eanes ISD, where 4 or 5 kids started passing away in a row, because that's when they get the attention. But they want that powerful drug in their batch. So they'll put a hot pill in a batch of 50 or 100 in a certain area of town, because if it makes somebody overdose or poison somebody, they get some street cred that their stuff is so powerful. So that's when you start seeing these emojis like, hey, this stuff is real powerful, it's got fentanyl in it, come buy some.
Okay. And then second part was about the Narcan.
Mhm.
Can we just get that at the pharmacy or?
A lot of the pharmacies carry it, yes.
And then do you recommend just getting like one, or you're saying now some of these?
I would have a couple of doses. I mean, and have it somewhere you know you can find it in a time of stress.
Okay.
I'll speak to that. I carry Narcan in my bag, and I went to the CVS at Target, and if you look on GoodRx, you can find the cheapest place, because Texas has a script, like for like a blanket prescription.
Okay.
So you don't have to have a prescription.
No.
You can just go up to any pharmacy, and it was a 2-pack. I think it was like $40. It's
Good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, I wanted to touch on the mental health part of when my granddaughter died. It took me a while to admit that she was a drug addict. I didn't raise her to be a drug addict. She had abandonment issues, and with abandonment issues came a lot of mental health, depression, suicidal ideation. At some point, she had 5 children when she passed. At some point, because of her mental health, she lost 2 of her children. One and a third one went to live with the dad. When she passed away, she had a 5-month-old. She was trying to get a bed at hospitals, anywhere, somewhere, because she'd already lost all her children, and she wanted to love the one that she had last. And I know that she wanted to get clean, because that was her dream, to be a mom. She was abandoned by her mom. And so all these issues came with it. If your children have mental health issues, address them. She was 26. And I'm the one person in the world that she tried to protect. I saved her a lot of times, taking Tylenol overdoses. In 2019, in November of 2019, I went to Utah to get her because she tried to overdose. All she wanted was to be loved. So all she wanted. So she got in relationships that were not healthy. She stayed in relationships that were toxic. And as a mother or a grandmother, because she was my granddaughter, I wish I could have done better, but this is what it is today. Almost a year and a half now. It's a hard journey. But if this has affected you, I reached out to KXA, and I'm in a group of moms that have lost their children. And that is what is helping me in this journey today, is being connected, doing events like this, giving our story, and hopefully it will impact a family to save one child, one adult, one person that is hurting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Deputy Hippolito, I want to thank you for your presentation this evening, and we're especially grateful that so many of you joined us tonight from areas and school districts beyond Eanes ISD. So thank you for being here, but I think what has been illustrated this evening is that this topic, this concern, this issue requires a community that's much larger than any one zip code. And tonight the community just became much larger. So we're grateful that you're here, to the families who shared your stories, for your vulnerability and your honesty, for many of you who spoke tonight. Thank you for that. Deputy Hippolito and your presenters, thank you for being here this evening. So we're going to conclude this evening out of respect for your time, but we know that this conversation will continue. So thanks again for joining us this evening.